Let's compare the iPhone 16e with the older iPhone 11 Pro. So the 16e was just announced and will be released shortly. Very new, the newest iPhone in the 16 family. And we're comparing it with the 11 Pro, which years ago was the go-to flagship, very, very expensive iPhone. So let's go ahead and compare the two. So on the outside, both of these devices are very similar. They both have a notch at the top in the front. They have Face ID. On the back, you flip them over. There's a big difference though. You have the single camera on the 16e versus 3 cameras on the 11 Pro. And you flip the device towards the bottom and you have a USB-C charger on the 16e versus Lightning on the 11 Pro. So that was quickly the major differences if you were to put both devices in your hands. Right away, the takeaway is 3 cameras versus 1, USB-C versus Lightning, but the front of the device looks very, very similar, although the 16e has a smaller notch than the 11 Pro. So 6 years separate these devices. The 16e 2025 device, the 11 Pro 2019 device. So the 11 Pro is a very old device and is a heavier device than the 16e, but the build quality are both the same glass on the front, glass on the back, although you get a stainless steel frame on the 11 Pro. It doesn't make too much of a difference. You get eSIM only in the US on the 16e, but you get eSIM and nano SIM on the 11 Pro. And going back to that display, although they look similar in the front, you would expect that they would have a better screen on the 11 Pro, but it doesn't. It has only 60 Hz refresh rate, just like the E16e, which is an older, cheaper display that Apple uses on its non-Pro devices in 2025. And the screen overall is going to be bigger on the 16e with smaller bezels, 6.1 inches versus 5.8 inches. So a little bit of a difference in screen size. Software-wise, you're going to get longer updates on the 16e, launched with iOS 18. The 11 Pro launched with iOS 13, and it's nearing the end of its life for the updates, but it still runs iOS 18, so they're same right now in that regard. Chipset A18 on the 16e, A13 on the 11 Pro. Everyday apps will run the same, but yeah, it's not a comparison really in the chipset, because the A18 is the same chip in the iPhone 16 and the 16 Pro, and the A13 Bionic is looking very anemic by today's standards. You will not get that much performance out of it, but unless you're just using regular apps like emailing and browsing the web and nothing too intensive, you should be fine, and it is kind of a tie. But in the next couple of years, yes, the 11 Pro will be garbage in the department of performance. Internally, we also have, with the storage, we have a big difference. 128 gigs in the 16e versus 64 gigs on the 11 Pro. And the RAM is 8 gigs on the 16e versus 4 gigs on the 11 Pro. So the 11 Pro is really showing its age with the internals. 8 gigs is the same amount of RAM that's used in the 16 and the 16 Pro. So the 16e has very, very modern internals. Now, going to the camera, this is where the 11 Pro makes a comeback in this comparison. You get a single 48 megapixel shooter on the 16e, but you get three 12 megapixel shooters on the 11 Pro. The main camera, telephoto, and ultra wide, they all shoot in 4K. And the selfie camera also shoots 4K for both of these cameras on these phones, or both of these phones. If you want ultra wide and telephoto and more options, the 11 Pro has a great advantage over that single camera on the 16e. And quality should be pretty much the same. You'll be happy with the results. Now, Bluetooth 5.3 on the 16e versus 5.0 on the 11 Pro. And charging, like I mentioned before, that's a difference. USB-C on the 16e versus Lightning. That's going to cause a lot of, it's going to cause a lot of confusion for some people. Well, not really a confusion, but it's more flexible having the USB Type-C today in 2025. You could charge your MacBook, your iPad, your AirPods. Pretty much all your devices are using USB Type-C. Lightning, on the other hand, it is an old standard now, and it's going to get harder and harder to come by. So it's just easier to have USB Type-C. That's an advantage on the 16E. Both of these have Face ID housed in the notch up top, and they work the same. Nothing really to complain about right there. Another advantage on the 11 Pro though is that it has ultra wideband. That's usually when you that's for locating devices, so like more specifically AirTags. Now for the battery, the 16E has a huge advantage over the 11 Pro. It has better battery life, 26 hours of video playback, the most ever on any iPhone in this size range. The 11 Pro charges 50% in 30 minutes, and it has a decent battery life almost all day, but the 16E definitely has an advantage in the battery department. Yeah, you definitely are not going to, that's sort of standout things. You're not going to get any better battery life from any other phone. The 16E is king of battery life for any iPhone in this size range. So after going through the specs, what are my thoughts on these devices? These are very good devices, even though the 11 Pro is older. You get that extra camera, the ultra wideband or the ultra wide camera. That's going to be good for very specific pictures, such as like for your job, I would imagine. Like if you're a realtor, you want to take a whole picture of the entire room or landscape. So that's a huge advantage right there. When people look at the phone, they know you got a Pro phone because it has 3 cameras on the back. The ultra wideband might come in handy for some people if they want to locate their AirTag, for example. So that's another thing that the 11 Pro has over the 16E. But other than that, the 16E has just so much more positives, even though it looks older from the back and the front. It looks exactly the same. So if you were to hold these devices together, nobody would really say you have an older phone. If you had the 11 Pro, the 16E actually looks older than the 11 Pro. It doesn't have the 3 cameras. The notch just signifies that it's an older device. It doesn't have dynamic island like the newer devices. But the internals of the 16E are just crazy good by today's standards, and you're getting them at a $600 price point. The 11 Pro, you could actually buy it used for around $180. So if you want to save some money, the 11 Pro will serve you good. But the 16E is just good battery life, a really great single camera if you don't need the ultra wide. It has a USB Type-C to charge, so you don't have to carry on a bunch of different chargers. And the price point is not bad. If you want a brand new entry-level iPhone, you don't have to spend $800 or $1,000. You can spend $600 and it'll be future-proof. You're gonna get like 7 years of updates. It's actually a crazy good deal, especially if even if you want to get it on prepaid, you can get a better deal. I've seen it for Boost Mobile, for example, here in the US. You can get it for $300 on prepaid. So yeah, if you could get it for less than $600, it's even a better deal. But yeah, on the outside, there's not much difference in these devices, but internally, the 16E just kills the 11 Pro.